today, I wanted to mention quickly again about the Fisher book. So please make sure, not the Fisher book, excuse me, the Washington's Crossing. You don't have to buy one if you don't want to buy one, but if you do want to buy one, please get on that quickly. They're really cheap on Barnes & Noble or the Amazon site, like $2 or less for a paper copy. You can mark it up, you can write in it, you can do what you want to do in it. If you don't want to buy one, that's fine. I will make all the copies available to you next week that you guys can use as a school version of the book. But we will start reading that in a couple weeks, so please get on that right away. The links to the used books are right on Schoology. But today we're going to do mostly Anderson Chapter 5 discussion. That would be great. And we already watched all your Pequot commercials. In terms of the calendars, I said before, don't worry about Quiz 8. Just do the annotations and highlights. And we have one little reading coming up. One more time with Anderson on the 29th. And that's actually going to be our segue into the American Revolution. That article is that's about our first thing we're reading about the Revolution. That's going to kind of bring us into this next really important big topic. So, to get us started today, I like to show you something. I like to put these historians with a name with a face. So there is Fred Anderson, the guy you read for today in class. All right, he's alive. He still speaks at places and that kind of stuff. Now, I'm going to have you guys watch this about like 4 or 5 minute little clip. He talks about why we should remember certain wars and why certain wars are always remembered over other wars. And then he also talks about certain trigger events that make us, associate with those memories. So can you think about that as you watch that? And then he's going to talk about why he thinks the French and Indian War is one that should also be remembered. If you have your article highlights and annotations out, have them out while we're watching. I'll come around and just check those in really quickly, and then we're going to get into our discussion. So just listen quickly about what Fred Anderson has to say.
Well, thank you all for coming.
Oh, you're very welcome. There we go.
I can't tell you how I hate that kind of build-up, because I haven't been introduced as an entertaining speaker means that the only thing I can possibly do is disappoint you. But bear with me, and I'll try at least not to go on too long. Americans are good, very good, at remembering our wars, or more properly, moments and passages from our wars. Some of those moments we turn into battle cries and slogans. And oddly enough, those are the slogans that commemorate defeats. So we remember the Alamo, we remember the Maine, we remember Pearl Harbor, and now we remember 9/11. Why do we choose these to remember? Well, each is in some way the result of the enemy's treacherous or immoral action. The slaughter of surrendered prisoners at the Alamo, the supposed murder of sleeping sailors aboard the Maine, the sneak attack on Pearl Harbor, the horrifying sight of airliners turned into bombs and flown into office buildings on September 11th, 2001. We remember these horrible events because we understand each of them as an attack not just on America, but on American values, and principally attacks on liberty. We remember them to motivate soldiers to fight, to remind ourselves that not to allow enemies of freedom to succeed because we fail to take seriously the defense of the values we treasure. We remember them to justify taking revenge on people we deem to be the enemies of freedom. We remember them, in other words, less as a part of the narrative of the wars they occurred in than as powerful symbols of the values that we hold most dear. We remember them as ways to remind ourselves of what we stand for. We remember them to remind ourselves of what sacrifice means. And just so, the passages of America's long, rich military history that we recall that comport best with the defense of freedom are victories or victorious wars. And in this case, we remember them by building monuments to them. This is why the memorials that define the center line of the mall in Washington, D.C. are monuments to America's 3 great wars for freedom. The Washington Memorial, which commemorates the establishment of American liberty and independence in the Revolution. The Lincoln Memorial, which recalls the expansion of liberty to all Americans, irrespective of race. In the Civil War, and finally the American defense of liberty around the world in World War II, with the memorial of which sits squarely between the others at the head of the reflecting pool. These remind us that Americans will bear any burden, pay any price to defend liberty, the central value in our political culture. These wars, in important ways, tell us who we are, tell us what we mean to ourselves. But of course, these public memories, important as they are, do less than full justice to the complexity of America's military heritage. And I'm here tonight to argue that we have as much to learn about who we are as a nation from the wars that have no monuments on them all. The imperial wars that fit so awkwardly with a national grand narrative that privileges so powerfully three great wars for freedom. These imperial wars are those we remember with a bit of a shudder, because they seem to be less about defining or defending freedom than expanding power, expanding dominion over territories and people who do not embrace us as liberators, but rather resist us as their would-be conquerors. The particular imperial war I want to talk about tonight is, of course, the 7 Years' War, or the French and Indian War. The argument I want to make is that in understanding that war as a part of our larger national narrative, particularly in appreciating its connections with the American Revolution that followed barely a dozen years after it, we can learn something about the complexity of the relationship between...
Okay, so what is he saying there? What was important? What should we remember? What wars do we remember? Why remember war? Yeah, Michael.
Like some monuments are put up in memory of like these big wars, and they really show Americans like what was given during those wars.
Yeah, what wars does he mention? Like the monuments, especially.
World War II.
Washington D.C., World War II, monument. What other monuments does he mention? Yeah, Sam. Lincoln Memorial for the Civil War, certainly good. What else? Yeah.
The Washington Monument for the Revolutionary War.
Washington Monument, right? Those are big things. You go to Washington, you got to see that stuff, right? You got to go to the mall, you got to see it. It's one of the biggest things you do, right? And remember those wars, right? That's an important part of memory for us as a nation, as a people. Good. What else? We talking about? What else you hit on? Yeah.
He says like most Americans, they remember the wars in which we lost the most, like 9/11. I mean, that wasn't really a war, but like attacks.
It is a war. No, it is. Think of it as a war. We don't think of it as a war because we think of war like World War II. We're all like mobilized. We're all going off to war. But it's a war right now. It's never going to. Yeah. So that's a memory for us.
And like Pearl Harbor.
Yes.
We remember those the most because we feel that was other groups impeding our freedom and coming and attacking us. And then second, we remember the wars we won.
Good.
We don't really remember the wars a lot. We think about, when you think about that, you think about the losses in those wars a lot. And then people tend to not really think about the wars like the French and Indian War because it's like so long ago and we weren't even America yet.
No, and it wasn't supposedly a war about what? Like a big theme. All these wars are about freedom and liberty, right? And well, what's this war about? About France and England and their colonies? Who cares, right? Excellent. Very good. Yeah, great.
We remember wars that carried a strong emotional influence.
Yeah.
Like the Alamo.
But
It's like becoming...
let me pause a second, because you're right. He mentions the Alamo. How many of you know about the Alamo or something? You may know nothing about it, but at least the name sounds familiar, right? You know what happened there, right? You know a lot of people died, right, there at some fort. You might not know why they died, but you know something bad happened there, right?
Yeah.
With the Mexican-American War tied to it. What's the next event he mentioned after the Alamo?
Pearl Harbor.
Nope, before that.
Maine.
The Maine. It's not even harder. What's the Maine?
Wasn't that the Spanish-American War that started with the ship that blew up in Cuban Harbor?
Good. How many of you thought this was about World War One? And don't be afraid that was you, because a lot of people did in our class too, right? Because you know some boat blew up with World War One, right? That was the Lusitania. But you might think, oh yeah, some boat, people died, and there's a war started because of it. The Maine is the Spanish-American War, which we actually will do later in the 1890s. And Adam says that outside of Havana Harbor, it blew up. There's a lot of debate about that ship, and did it blow up for natural, like an accident, or was it Spanish, placing bomb, doing things to make the boat explode, and that's our rallying cry to go off to war. All right, so you have events that trigger war. Then after the main, it's Pearl Harbor, right? And then you mentioned 9/11, right? So there's these trigger events that we kind of tie into. Here, right, he's making the argument that why is the French and Indian War important to study, though? This is his big thing. You wrote a lot about it. Why is the French and Indian War important to study? This is according to what he said in the video. Because it's tied to what larger war? Revolution. There's no revolution. There is no revolution if it isn't the French and Indian War. It will not happen. All right? And our history is very different because of that if it doesn't happen. So there's all these important things that are tied into it. So, today, I asked you to think about were these discussion questions, right? So his chapter here in this book, which again, I'm not having you read the whole thing, obviously, but what was this emotional and physical impact that this war had on these soldiers? Their battle experience. I think tomorrow we'll probably do more of the motivation stuff, but maybe we'll hit it today. We'll see. We're a little bit ahead because we're not watching any Pequot War videos. So before I even get to that, I'm sorry, Henry, I'll come back to you first. I was at to kind of break the ice a little bit. Did you like this? Did you not like it? Did you find it more interesting than the other stuff, like chapter 4 of his stuff? Yes, no, why? Just to kind of like get the ball rolling. So what was your initial reaction to this? Who wants to start us off? Yeah, Jake, thank you.
Like how I mentioned a lot of the stories that we went through.
The stories are good, right? Stories help you, I think, get more into it, and you make a better connection to it, right? Excellent, very good. Yeah,
I was
Dylan.
going to say I like a lot of the personal accounts, and it like I said, it allows you to connect and understand more. And
Yeah.
It broadens your knowledge, and you can really,
A little more personal and,
Yeah.
right, good. Yeah, Henry.
I thought it was like really easy to find the answers to the questions, and like it was really thorough and right to the point.
Right, easy to kind of get in those answers, right? Adam, yep.
I thought it was interesting. You kind of heard that a bunch of different guys were at the same battle, and then they would have different views of it, so it made it a little more interesting than the other.
And we're going to come back to a really important point we got to look into carefully, right? The way the perceptions are. You could be at the same spot or same battle and have really different memories of that battle, right? Great,
I
Sean.
liked it, and one of the things I found interesting about it was that, I always wondered why are there just so many accounts of war? Because when you think of it, you don't really have time to write. But then he talks about how that was a way of soldiers to express their feelings
Yes.
of what happened.
So we'll come back to that point too. That's an important point. Nathan.
I thought it was cool how you described the campgrounds after they lost a battle and how everyone was feeling.
And the emotions that we'll get in that today too. Awesome, Bianca.
I thought it was really well organized.
Yeah.
And, it was really easy to read, and I liked how he went from why they were motivated to how they were demoralized, but they still maintained that.
The range of emotions people
Yeah.
experience is really up and down crazy, right? Yeah, and that the effects that it has, right?
Yeah.
Awesome, very good. Yeah, Morgan.
I feel like most war accounts are statistics and the number who died casualties and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, this offered more of a personal human.
And that's good, right? I mean, it's important to know the stats, but stats are kind of dry, and you lack the emotional, connection to it. Here you get that. Very good. Larissa.
I think we gave multiple accounts of how the soldiers felt and what was really going on instead of a broad overview.
Good. Excellent. Very nice. Yeah, go ahead.
It
Fallon.
was good how they kind of went into the psychological effects of war for the soldiers.
And stuff that we're going to get into, right? Stuff that we even started talking about already, right? We had a guest speaker here, right, who kind of got into that a little bit. The man yesterday, right, at Niagara University, right? Talking about his experiences in Bosnia, right? And how he had a pause. You noticed that, right? He couldn't even talk about it, right? And that's how many years ago. And it was important for you to see that and understand that. And you have it here in the French-Indian War. Yes?
It's definitely a new military history book because it's focusing more on the emotions of the soldiers.
Yes. This whole book is about that. Emotions and motivations and why they're there, right? Less about the battle, specific battles like Fort Ticonderoga or Fort George. More about what they actually experienced, right? Excellent. Yeah, Andrew.
The quotes and the the diary entries from the officers were nice to reinforce his points he was making.
Yeah.
It was interesting to read those.
This is great. Good. Michael.
So I thought the article was pretty interesting, and I thought that an interesting part was about how the sickness always seemed to intensify following the battles.
Yes.
And that plays a big, almost psychological and physical toll.
Hold on. Come back to that point later. It's really good. Yeah, Sean.
So I liked the way he was able to incorporate their attack strategies and how they more and how it's still he was still able to figure out the psychological effects of the soldiers.
We have a little bit of tactics, right, in this too, which is kind of been a common theme in this class, right? It's still important to understand the statistics and the tactics and the strategy, tie to the emotion too. All right, great. Yes, go ahead.
It's interesting how we talked about the accounts both being from either a bird's eye view or a worm's eye view.
We will come back to that. Super important today. Perfect. Awesome, Ryan. Yeah, go ahead, Zanny.
I like when you talked about like how it took a lot of people a really long time to properly reflect and comprehend what happened during the battles.
Yes. One guy's comic was like 60 years later, right? Yeah, it was incredible. Yeah, man.
I like how he almost personified the army as like a person, and it made you realize like, hey, these are just a bunch of normal people.
That's all they are. And I think you're seeing that, right? Sergeant Hutchinson up here, right? Just a guy. Never would know what he went through in his life, right? Saw him at the store or on the street. That guy the other day at MU, right? Some old man who walks into Western New York Heroes. Oh, yeah, I flew 60 combat missions in World War II. Really? Okay, I mean, they're just people, right? And have lives, and that's important, right? Yeah, Sam.
I like how he talks about why the professionals were willing to risk their lives and what pushed them to join the army, basically.
Excellent, very good.
I felt like it was more personal, a lot more stories and stuff. I thought it made it a lot easier to read than some of the other things.
A little easier to read. Cool. Wow. I mean, I got you right, Tom. I'm going to come back to you for other things in a second. No one's mentioned yet any negatives, which I always get jaded because I start off the day and I love period one, but they're all like, maybe it's his first period. They're all like, it's too long and it was like repetitive. I'm like, oh, okay. Then we had a really good discussion. Then period 4, you guys are all like, oh, this is great. Anybody thought it was like long or repetitive or not? Not as much.
It was
A little bit. Okay.
Not as much as some.
Well, hopefully the stories can kind of get you into it more. When we get to Fisher's Washington's Crossing, it's written more like still like a novel. So I think you're going to like it even better. Like it is a story, all right? And you're going to see a lot of little anecdotes and little like personal accounts that will hopefully draw you into it. I hope so, at least. Yeah, one more.
I was just gonna say that I didn't think it was boring because of all the stories and it kept it different.
Yeah.
It wasn't like something like it was like the same idea. That
Over and over again. Yeah.
Sort of made different.
Excellent. Can we start to really dive in now? So let's talk about, and I'll come right back to you, Dustin. Let's get into the emotional, physical aspects. What's going on here? All right, Henry, start us off. Get some details. Get some great examples. Let's just do it. Oh no quote.
Okay.
No, I'm kidding. Please, yeah.
Yeah, so on page 144.
144.
Is the, you want me to-
Yeah, go ahead, please. Where are you, my friend?
Like the last paragraph, the first sentence, no provincial witnesses, on the other hand, noted anything like high spirits after battle. Whether the provincials won or lost made little apparent difference. So I think it's like that because even though like if they did win, I feel like they still lost like a lot of soldiers, so they wouldn't, their spirits wouldn't be high.
So even if you win a battle, you might expect this like you won a game. This is great. Everybody's excited, but it's not a game. It's not a soccer match. It's not a football game, right? It's something different. And you still lost people. People still died, and you still saw horrible things. So you kind of have a really weird emotion. You should be happy, but you're not, right? It's a great example. Matthew, go ahead.
I like how Seth Pomeroy in his diary.
Where are you, Matthew?
This is page 145.
Okay, go ahead.
He used the word melancholy to describe the camp after a battle.
Yeah, it's a great one. Why? Why is that important?
It's just like a really vivid word.
What does that word mean? It's that word we use often. Feeling pretty melancholy today. I mean, it's just, yeah. It means sad.
Like an empty sadness.
Empty, depression, right? Kind of this hollowness inside of you, right? And that's a strong emotion, right? Good. Let's keep on building on this, right? Adam, go ahead.
I think the provincials probably felt like this, and the British may not have, because the provincials went to war with their neighbors and their close friends because they just kind of joined up. But the British were just thrown together, and was from all over England. And
Yeah, that's a tough one because, all right, it might be more emotionally invested because this is people you grew up with, that you know as family and friends and things like that. But we're gonna learn. Can't wait. I don't want to wish the year away. But we get to World War II, and we read flags of our fathers. How by World War II, what the Army is doing now, these Marines, is they're creating a new community. That the bonds there are super strong. Now, we don't know if the British went to the great lengths to do that during this time period. It was much more professional and class-driven and stuff like that. But we'll see by World War II that you will die for your buddy in battle next year. Because it's a person that you now have such a tremendous bond with. So we're going to get to both sides of it. That's a great point, Adam. Great. Tyler, go ahead.
I kind of like how we talked about like the psychological aspect of seeing like the story of the camp.
Where are you, Tyler? Thank you.
Like on page 152, it says one of the men raised his head a little bit above the line.
Hold on a second, Tyler. I'm sorry. Can you wait 1 second? Where are 152? Where are you?
It's like towards the top.
Okay, go ahead.
One of the men raised his head a little bit above the log, and a ball struck him in the center of the forehead and tore up his scalp, threw back to the ground. He
Yeah.
threw back and his blood ran around and over his face. It was a bad blow, and no one was disposed to deny it, for he looked bad enough.
Yeah. That's pretty vivid.
Yeah.
What was that example for you for? Why was that important for you?
It kind of shows like the psychological aspect of like these horrific events that the soldiers witnessed.
Psychological aspects, right? What they witnessed. They're seeing these horrible, horrific things, right? It's a great example. Yeah, Andrew, over here.
The very first sentence of the entire chapter said that like the entire war was like a war of attrition, where the British were trying to like wear away the French army.
Yeah.
And it explains how like all the battles fought were very brutal because they were just like tearing each other apart.
Tearing each other apart, right? They were really brutal. Good. Caleb, go ahead.
There was a quote on page 155 that stood out to me.
Yeah, go ahead.
It said
Where
battle.
are you on 55? I'm sorry.
Like the second paragraph, like towards the top.
Okay, second paragraph towards the top. Go ahead.
It said battle was so overwhelming, so devastating that it evidently required a period of reflection to sort out its meaning. And that just showed like how traumatic it was for the soldiers, and that's it.
Yeah, and that's why I wanted us to go with this, because we're going to read stuff about the Vietnam War, and it's the exact same thing. This is in the 1750s. It doesn't matter. It's the same experience, right? And how emotionally draining that is, right? Go ahead, Bianca.
I thought like the trauma really affected them because when you look at the Worms level communication and you compare it to photographs that they had, it was probably identical, or like the casualties of photographs were even greater.
Yes. Paintings for this period. Yeah. Did you say photograph? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of like the paintings and the depictions of it, right?
Yeah.
And we're going to actually spend a lot of time on that when we get to the Civil War, about how the Civil War in the 1860s will be the first photographed war for the United States. And it just changes everybody's perception of war. Like, to see the outcomes and the aftermath, no one understood that before. So here, their diaries, you might even argue, are kind of like doing the same thing. They're almost like mental photographs for these people, right? They're journal entries, they're diary entries, right? You get these like credible, vivid accounts. Excellent. Xander, go ahead.
We're going back to the psychological effects. Like, yeah, all the like the sights and everything that they see and the way they describe it is probably is why there's like that feeling of melancholy after the battle, even if they won, because they know that they won, but at the same time they've seen all these things,
Yes.
experienced all these things, and they just can't like handle it.
Is this PTSD or not? What do you think? He mentions a little bit in there, right, about that issue. What does he say about that issue? Is it or is it not, according to Anderson at least? I don't know. Sam, do you got something about that?
It says, yet battled on page 145. It says, like, right before the last paragraph starts, it says, yet battled vividly marching the minute touched, victory and defeat were categories that are less experienced in the abstract. Battles disoriented winners and losers alike rapidly, all moved and evidently damaged their physical health as well.
Yes. So it damages your physical health, damages your emotional health, right? These are vivid memories, right, that never go away, right? Like the one man, I forgot what page is on, I'll find it, right, writes about it 60 years later, and his account is extremely graphic and vivid, like it was yesterday, right? Go ahead.
So talking about the emotional,
Yep.
like one of like an example of it wasn't just like for after seeing all this stuff on page 151, it talks about it was then we carried off some of our wounded men, and I opt to think that many was left to the mercy of the enemy. So it kind of not only did they feel like traumatized from seeing all the war, but maybe guilt from leaving their fellow people on the battlefield, not being able to save everybody and carry them along.
And what happened to them and so forth, right? Excellent, right? Nathan.
It says in a war, there's I think people that fight in the war and people that don't, that do like the other things.
The drudgery, yeah.
Yeah, it says that like the experiences that they share are like 100% different. So it's kind of cool how like in the army, or like there's like totally they share. Some people share totally different experiences of the war.
And that kind of went back to, again, making these connections back, hopefully things that we talked about before, right? Our speakers the other day, right? Rossi made that comment, right? That, you're in a war, your experience might be very different, because everybody's job is so different and specialized, and less so during this period, but even more in the modern war about how specialized everybody's job is, right? And here you are in the same spot and having very different experiences, which I definitely want to get into. Will, go ahead.
I have a quote on page 151. It says, "The cry of quote unquote enemy made our people cry and make sad lamentations."
Why is that important? Excellent.
Because it kind of like personalizes the enemy, sort of, because like they're going through the same as what we're going through, so it kind of like personalizes it.
Because you know that they're also dying and
Yeah.
suffering too, and how do you deal with that, right? You can't just forget that either, right? Excellent. Tyler, go ahead.
Kind of building on what Sean said, I think about like leaving your comrades behind.
Yes.
It was like kind of horrific because I heard like the screams of like the wounded men and that really affected them psychologically.
Yes, excellent. Very good. Great.
To actually connect this to an earlier article.
Please do.
One where it said like, it was something like, when the war started, you know, a lot of men like signed up and stuff, but as the war kept on going on, less and less men like, signed up. I don't remember what article.
What article is Barry talking about? About an article we looked at, story with that motivation, why people sign up, and over time, sometimes the initial enthusiasm starts to go down a little bit, and less and less enlist. Right? You remember talking about that?
The social history one.
Social history one.
Of something.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to say.
Yeah.
That car. What?
No, it's not.
Starts with a K. Cone. Yeah, good. All right, make these connections. This is good.
Yeah.
Try to bring them back into your memory. Make these tie-ins. This is perfect, right? But yeah, we see that. Beginning of Civil War, man, everybody's signing up. Man, Pearl Harbor hits, right? Boom. The lines are, you can't even stand for hours. It's just to sign up, right? Over time, though, that initial rallying to the flag is what it's called. Rally to the flag. Right? You got to grab our flag and run in the battle and do great things. Wears off. And, you know, initial enthusiasm starts to die off a little bit, right?
Yeah, well, I was going to say, because it's, you know, first, the second page, but
Yeah.
it's like, you know, the soldiers, and the New England soldiers generally anticipated battle with high spirits, even eagerness, and then,
Yeah.
like, after the battle, it's, Archis Fuller felt weak and outdone and noted that the men fit to work very dull.
Yes. So it changes rapidly, right?
Yeah.
This is great. I'm going to pick on Adam, because Adam brought up a point that I wanted to go back to, Adam. What are you going to talk about perspectives on the battle?
That it depends on, I know they mentioned here, like, it was like a surgeon and a chaplain
Yep.
watching the battle.
Yep.
And then there were a couple of accounts of actual soldiers in the battle.
Yep.
And like, the one guy, I know he said, instead of saying he hid behind a log, he said he hid behind a big pine log.
A big oak. It was oak. Just
Yeah.
to make sure. It was specific there, Adam. All right. It was pine.
He's very detailed
Just
with
kidding.
different stuff, and we think, like,
Yeah.
there's no way you'd be able to remember that.
Okay, so what was that about again? This is a really important part. I want to make sure we spend at least the next 6 minutes on this stuff. So what's the important part of this? What are the two different ways to categorize people's perspectives and the way they perceive the battle?
Like a bird's eye view is like a more general view, and then you get like the worm's eye view, which is kind of like on the field, in the field, on the front lines,
Yes.
actually doing the fighting.
Okay, so we understand that. It's a really big thing for us. We need to remember this part and use it going forward. It's one of those big things that we're going to keep on talking about again and again and again and again. So worm's eye view, right? A very personal, close-up look at a battle because you're in the thick of it, versus a bird's eye view, right, from above, where you might have a broader view of it and a different perspective. On the same place, same time, right? But just different views on that same battle. Let's elaborate. Ryan, go ahead.
I was gonna say, because everyone has like a different position and different job.
Yep.
A lot of it is the worm's eye view, where they only know what happens in their job and
From their perspective, because it's so in depth in that one spot. Again, any examples you have of this stuff from the text you want to bring it in, please do. Go ahead, Xander.
Just define the bird's eye view as like it has more of a focus on like tactics and the way that the army moves around, but then the worm's eye view focuses on like each soldier's experience in like executing those things, but they don't really understand the big picture.
Okay, so bird's eye view, much more perhaps position and movement and tactical stuff. We might call that our what? Military history. Old, perhaps, right? The old idea of tactics and that kind of stuff. While the more personal view about the emotions and the experiences might be, who mentioned it earlier? I think someone mentioned over here. It might be an example of I think Sam, did you mention it? The new military history, right? Someone might have mentioned it. I thought, maybe I'm just remembering other classes who are sitting. But that's okay. The new military history, right? That kind of idea, right? So it could be much more personal view of it. Yeah, Mike.
The bird's eye view might almost be less biased than the other view because
Why? Good.
Because the other view, the soldiers are on the ground fighting for a certain side, so they may remember things a certain way.
Yes.
That would almost benefit them.
Them.
Yeah.
So the bird's eye view might be a little more detached,
Yeah.
a complete story.
Yeah.
While the worm's eye view, if you're in this one part of the battlefield, you have no idea what's going on a mile down the road or over that hill. And your perspective is very limited, but again, very emotional and very personal, right? Perfect. Good. Morning.
On page 154, it like specifically says,
Hold on. Where are you, Morgan? It's a Port Coy, I think, on 154. Hold on a second. Where are you? Top of the page, middle of the page, where are you?
it's like the second paragraph.
Go ahead.
Only the writers with a comprehensive perspective would blame their generals, when it gives like a specific example of the brutal frontal assault on the French.
Yes.
Failing to use artillery, that depending on where you are, and he says comprehensive perspective is how you're going to feel about, like, in this case, your general.
So that might be more of a bird's eye view, because about like a general's view of the battle and how well that general performed. They didn't move this over here or that over there, right? It's a much broader perspective. Good. Yeah, Will, go ahead.
Something to make the difference between bird's eye and worm's eye.
Please.
On page 149, it says, Ray spoke of men being swept off by cannon fire. Both men tried to be preliminary estimate of the casualties suffered. So like the bird's eye does not show like how the men being swept off by cannon fire affected like the worm's eye.
Not at all, right? So the bird's eye view might know better statistics on the battle, but they might not know the details, right, of what actually caused parts of this, right? And the experiences of that, right? That's really good, right? Yeah, Matthew, go ahead.
I think a good word to describe the bird's eye view is objective. Being very objective, look at what happened.
Good. And what might be the other word to describe the worm's eye view? What would you use? Objective, right? Yeah, I like it. Good. What else? This is great. Yeah, great.
I feel like the bird's eye view would be more biased than the worm eye view, because the bird's eye view is usually told after the battle and after the person's already won the battle.
Yes.
Meanwhile, the worm's eye view is more just two different sides of soldiers trying to survive.
Survive, and usually through diary accounts that are very personal, right? We talk about that maybe be like a therapeutic thing for some of these soldiers, right? To write in their diaries, to write these letters, to get these emotions off, you know, their chest, so to speak, right? That was an important part of it. Good. Yeah, Xander?
Bird's eye view could also be more biased because it could leave out certain undesirable factors of war that like would make their victory, let's say victory, like less qualified.
Yep. That's good. I like that.
And then vice versa as well. Like
Vice
the
versa.
personal accounts of wars that could leave in those types of things. That's like more personal.
More
things
personal.
that I can't try to like put out there.
Excellent. Very good. Anybody else?
History is written by the victim.
I'm sorry, history is written by the victors, right? So in a modern perspective, say you are part of a drone team and you're given orders to do a drone strike over Syria, right? Perhaps. Well, you're probably sitting in a command post in Missouri looking at a computer screen. And you're launching that drone strike from Missouri and you're taking out a target in Syria. And you launch that strike, and that missile is launched from that drone, and you might kill people, and people might die, and buildings destroyed. But you have no idea. You weren't there. You're in Missouri. You see the poof, you see the smoke, you see the target taken out, and that's all you know. That might be more of a bird's eye view. But if you're a soldier on the ground, like maybe Hutchinson, and you're going from door to door, house to house, building to building, and you're fighting up, you know, these close proximity, that's a very different experience, right? Than the person sitting at the command post in Missouri, just hitting the kill switch, so to speak, right? So again, perspectives are really important. All right, so we feel good about this. This is a good discussion, everybody. Tomorrow, maybe like 10 minutes, the last part, like at part 2 on about motivations. There's like 6 or 7 we just kind of hit really quickly about why they're there, and then we'll move on to our final project spin. Good work. Awesome. Very nice. Almost everybody got involved.